Okay. So we're talking about Samantha, the 28-year-old college student who's pregnant and has a history of cardiac disease that their doctor's concerned about the pregnancy making worse. And they have a religious history where they're uncomfortable. They believe that abortion is wrong. And they want to know what we would do in their position. What I guess what I or what you would do in their position.
Mhm. Yeah, so basically they have this information that going through with the pregnancy could be life-threatening, and then they have a past of religious beliefs that thinks it's wrong and looking to therapists for what to do, basically.
Mhm.
I feel like it would just, yeah, I'm just so curious to know more about Samantha and like how much I already know about them through our therapeutic relationship. But like I would be curious if they like to what extent they understand like the risk in following through with the pregnancy. And I would be curious like how flexible that belief is, that abortion is bad. And I guess, yeah, those are where my curiosities go. And like ultimately, like putting it back, like letting them know that, like, I don't know, I guess validating that it is a really, like, it's an important decision to make and like that there's support in their process. And I don't know, like, they will need to be the one that makes the ultimate call, but I'm happy to like wade through some of the questions. That's what's coming to mind initially. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think like I always just want to know more context, more information about the person and like to get to 18 weeks. They've had some time probably where they've known about this pregnancy and maybe have been envisioning like having this child. Um, and yeah, there's sort of no mention about like their relationship with their pregnancy to this point. Was this like a wanted pregnancy? All it says is that they're a student, a college student. So like, I guess this is biased, but like my assumption reading just that phrase is that maybe it's not intentional, but it could be. Because also they're 28. Um, but yeah, I'm sort of wondering about that, wondering about their relationship and their trust with their doctor.
Right, yeah.
Because like, yeah, like you said, did they understand the risks? Do they really have a good understanding of the implications of either choice in terms of their own health?
Mhm.
Um, and even I have like I have my own distrust of the medical system and doctors, and so I'm like questioning the MD. Are they just being cautious and not really providing alternative options, or is this really, really dangerous? And yeah, so I think I would want a lot more information from Samantha and maybe even like if they're comfortable with it to talk with their MD to get a sense of yeah, what's really going on.
Yeah. I'm also just like imagining that there's a lot of fear in this decision of like fear of your own death or fear of like eternal hell, probably. Um, but I guess like I don't know, getting like deeper into like the belief, saying that like they don't go to church, but like they did in the past, like, and maybe this is me imposing my values, maybe it's not healthy or correct as a therapist, but like, is that belief because of past religious belief? Is it like, I guess it just kind of goes down to like how deeply is that held? How deeply is it believed that it is wrong or bad? Or is it like, and I'm coming from my transference of the situation, also being raised in not, I think it said Catholicism, but like Christianity, and like I feel like I had inherited just like a set of beliefs until I started asking my own questions and like learning more about um like abortion. And like I know I had my mind opened at one point in my life by learning more. And so I know like in some ways I almost feel like there is like a moral obligation to like educate because you know, like it sounds, because they're bringing this to therapy and like what would you do, like sounds like there is some gray area. It's not like this person is like, no, I have to have this baby because I believe it's bad and wrong. And so like I think it could be supportive to, you know, understand that abortion isn't like killing babies or like a cause of eternal damnation. And like it would save her life, it sounds like. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, in our therapy work together, have we talked about Samantha's religious background and like, is there religious trauma? Was this just like how does that show up for them now? And how do they hold that? What's their relationship to religion and their beliefs about God? And also it makes me think about this again is biased because like I didn't grow up in that world, but I have this assumption that they probably have experience with authority figures in their life, like telling them what is right. And so, in them asking me as their therapist, like what I would do, I feel like there's a lot of power in my position in that moment and like how I answer that. Um, and that, yeah, like if there's this conditioning to like, okay, this person has authority to tell me what's right, I would want to be really, really careful with how I answer that because I don't want to like influence them to do something that at their heart they're not resonating with. Um, yeah, so just like holding that with a lot of tenderness and slowness and like,
Mhm.
yeah. And I agree about like education feeling really important and especially with depending on what they're like if they have a history of cardiac disease, what's their relationship to the medical system and doctors and is there trust there? And yeah, just it feels like there could be a lot of really complicated relationships with different figures of authority in this whole situation.
Yeah, I think you really nailed that part. Like with the external authority having the answer and the say on what's right and good. Um, and yeah, bringing it back to like equalizing power and like involving them and like figuring out what their values are and like there's a word, I guess, like yeah, how would I like empower this person to make the decision that like resonates most with them and like maybe situates external voices, you know, like maybe yeah, I don't feel like I can, yeah, that just puts them at the center and like their own orientation to what they think is right and like not let my voice be another external noise that is maybe potentially clouding their judgment. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And just we're talking about like empowerment and sort of I'm tying back to this like list of different decision making things and like the feminist one feels so present, I think, in both our orientations, especially to this particular dilemma.
Yeah. Yeah. Not sure what else to say on this one.
You want to move on?
Sure. So the next one we'll talk about is the good coach, bad role model. So we have a Big Ten basketball coach, lots of experience, has won lots of games, probably got the school lots of money. My bias is coming through. Good coach, reports of him being vulgar, violent, abusive toward team members. Universities look the other way, even though there's been reports. Now there's a videotape of physical conflict that's come to light. So the universities is, do we dismiss this coach that's been well recognized? Or should the university be it says he's remorseful. Should they give him a second chance?
My sense is that we both have bias that comes out with this. But yeah, I was actually really surprised when I got to literally the last line that mentions that he's remorseful, because up to that point, there's no information to indicate that. And in fact, like, it says there's been abusive behavior for years. And so apologetic, I believe, because there's a video. But remorseful, like, how do we know that? Because yeah, presumably reports over the years, Jim was made aware that happened. And if he was actually remorseful, like, I would imagine that would have had more impact. And that the fact that it took a video, yeah, makes me really not trust that there is remorse, and that makes it, yeah, pushes, I think, how much faith I would have in there being like some possibility for, I don't know, like restorative justice here.
Yeah. I mean, my mind goes to an inherent values conflict on my end, which like sounds like, okay, this coach is well recognized, he has status, social status, probably, like I said in my retelling of it, where I named my bias, probably has gotten school lots of money. But then there's been students. College students are still developing. They're like vulnerable, impressionable, and are being taught on some level that certain treatment is okay if you get the gold stars in society. And so I think that, you know, in the ethical decision making models, there's like, for me, do the ends justify the means? Like, keeping this coach on, what ends does this justify? More state championships, more titles, or like abused college students? What's more important? And that feels obvious to me, that the students and people that are being harmed, that needs to stop. And like actionable values of like what is valued by the school feels important, like the health and well-being of the students, or like sports success. Like it feels like it's, you know, even this question is kind of driven around money and status, which is, you know, something of about my values. So yeah, and it's like the question says, do we give him a second chance? But it sounds like by sweeping things under the rug, he's had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I also like, I was thinking like this case could be called like capitalism versus humanity. Like, I mean, there are lots of things that could be called that, but it just feels like, how is this a question? Like, this is literally only a question because this person has a lot of power, a lot of status, and a lot of influence over the financial situation. Like, if this was an art teacher at a school, whatever, who had multiple allegations of abuse, like there's no way this would be a question.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, that feels really important to like, okay, is this a moral question, or like how much should morals be influenced by the fact that this person has status and money?
Mhm.
Um, and I can see an argument for like, okay, more money for the institution could be used for good things for students, potentially. Um, and yeah, bias coming out here, like I don't really trust that that is how that goes. Like I think
I
that
don't
stuff sort of just swims back in the same pool and doesn't go anywhere that it's actually needed or like to students. Um, so yeah, for me, it just, no matter what decision-making process I choose, like if we're going rule-based, I definitely want to live in a world where there's a rule that if a person in authority abuses the people that they're in authority over, that they lose that authority. Yeah.
yeah. And care based,
Mhm.
how would you care? I would hope that if I was being abused and people got up the courage to expose that, that would be handled justly. And I also like, as something is coming up with, you named restorative justice, and like, I don't know, I do have, well, let me think of what I actually want to say before I just start rambling. But maybe, in an ideal world, there could be a situation where he's suspended for 5 seasons, and there is like this emphasis on restorative justice where maybe he, really can contend with the fact that he's caused harm and like have time to make amends to the players over the years that he's been abusive toward. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if stuff like that really works on like a 5-year timeline, because it could also be easy to be like, I don't know. But, you know, I have a hard time with like punishment in general too, but like losing a job and consequences of actions are also, you know, not really punishment. Like I really like how you worded, like if I want to live in a world, if someone in authority is causing harm, I would like for them to not be in authority. That's not punitive. That's just right. I feel like
Mhm.
I don't know
Yeah.
what happens in his life, but he'll probably be able to get another job somewhere, probably doing the same stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even just like it was impactful for me that he was termed a successful coach. Because that really depends on your definition of success. Like,
I
what is
would,
a coach's job? A coach's job, in my mind, does not involve abusing the players on the team.
yeah,
Um,
it's really common though. I was an athlete in college, and I just like think back to so many times that was just like not okay. It's so normalized in sports from my experience.
yeah.
It doesn't
I
make it right.
Hmm.
That doesn't make it right that it's normalized.
Yeah. And I think that's like, but thank you for naming that, because I think that's like a big part of why this is a question, because we put we prioritize the outcome over the cost of the process. So like, great, if the team is winning, then, oh, you must be coaching well. Yeah, and that does not align with my value system.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we're in agreement that we would dismiss him as a coach probably. And maybe there's creative ways that can help maybe put him on a path to becoming a better person, but we don't think he needs to be in the position that he's in, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well said.
Cool. Oh, you have a squirrel in your ink. Aw. Oh,
Oh,
hey bud.